Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fierros. Hey, I'm back for another exciting episode this week. Hey, you know what? We're thrilled to have back a true fan favorite on the show. He's back for his third appearance on the podcast. Go back and definitely check out those prior episodes. He's the mad scientist of multifamily himself, Neal Bawa. Hey, Neal is the CEO of Grow Capitalist and Multifamily University, where he manages a massive $1 billion portfolio across 10 different states. But we don't bring Neal on just for those numbers. Of course, we bring him on because he's the industry leading authority on using big data and AI to predict where the market is headed before anyone else sees it coming. And we were just talking off camera about different AI tools. And obviously, it's a huge thing that everybody is trying to incorporate into the business. But hey, Neal, it's been a minute since you were on last with us. Welcome back to the Cashflow Project.
Thanks for having me back on the show. It's exciting to be back. It's exciting to be alive and doing stuff in this very dynamic time. I think we live in truly interesting times, Steve.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, network frequently, talk to a lot of people in the industry, and we really are in a very unique time, guys. And if you're tuning in, and you're, hey, should I start? It's Chicken Little? Is the sky is falling? Guys, there is no better time than now to get started. There really is not. We're in such a unique time in history where we've got a window where, hey, technology is coming in. You bring that in and marry it with experience, which, Neal, you have in spades. And then, of course, there's still a ton of capital out in the system, guys. It's all looking for a home. Well, we got a lot of volatility in the market. That's definitely something we'll talk about here on the show today. But I think where we left off a little bit last time was obviously you're working on your Mission 10K, building out a bunch of units. You had your hand in a bunch of stuff. Obviously, AI now is going to be a super hot button topic with really across all different industries, but specifically also about in real estate. And I think people are probably trying to find a grasp on where they should go with that. But we'll start with the market and where you have an idea of where we are, maybe where we might be headed and what's in your crystal ball, so to speak, going forward for where we are.
Sounds good. When I'm looking at my crystal ball, when it's not malfunctioning, I think what it's showing me is the industry, we go to any conference, I'm sitting on stage and people are saying survive to 2025. And what has actually happened is that the industry was a little bit too bullish about that particular date. And what more and more people are saying is, no, it's really survived to 2027. Yeah. And I think if we can get there, then some of the projects are going to do well. The other piece of it, which has been fascinating, is just how pragmatic the banks have been. So lenders have been very pragmatic. And I don't usually associate the word pragmatism with lenders. Lenders tend to be stuffy and old and never want to change. But it's very clear to me that the lenders have learned a lot from 2008. In 2008, all the lenders said, oh, if you can't pay your mortgage, just give your property back, and they ended up with 2 million properties unsold and the prices tanked. Right now, what I'm seeing is a lot of pragmatic lenders. I have lenders like Arbor and Churchill and ReadyCap, and everyone basically says, look, I don't want a property back. Let's figure out a path. Let's figure out how we can make this work. Are we talking deferment? Are we talking about, there's even lenders that have not said no to potential haircuts, like where they take maybe a 10% haircut on the loan. So it's fascinating to see how lenders today are not just interested in kicking the can down the road, they're active participants in kicking the can down the road. They're even finding ways to redo the loan so that the loan goes from non-performing to performing in their books, and they're actually giving their borrowers tips and ideas saying, hey, if you do it that way and you do it this way, and you refinance this way, then that becomes a performing loan for us. And it's fascinating to see that interplay between borrowers and lenders. This doesn't in any way mean that there will not be in 2026 several thousand multifamily foreclosures. There will be. This doesn't mean that some new construction projects are not going to go back to the lenders. They will be. What I'm trying to point out, though, is we are in a very large ecosystem. There's more than 20 million tracked apartment units in the United States and tens of millions that are too small to track. This is a huge ecosystem. So if 1,000 properties go back to the lenders, all that does is it basically I want to be careful about how I say this. It means that those investors obviously lost significant portions of their money. And in many cases, they lost all of their money. But from a market perspective, that doesn't really even impact a local market, let alone a national market, because the national market is 20 million units in size. So we are not seeing, this is very important to understand, interest rates started going up in the second quarter of 2022. We are now in the second quarter of 2026. So we've had 4 years of a rising interest rate, negative sentiment environment. And 4 years after they start going through, we still haven't seen anywhere in the United States a single multifamily being sold on a courthouse step, which means that even the ones that have gone back to the banks, the bank picks up the phone, calls their favorite operator and says, hey, I got this property back. It's 42 million. That's my loan amount. Would you like it? And the other party always says, yes, I'll take it. So it is a liquid market where even the properties that the lenders are claiming back are immediately getting transacted, which is why the courthouse steps play no role anywhere in the United States of any large or small property. What does this tell me? It tells me that multifamily is not a distressed market in any way, because for distress, you got to have some courthouse sales. It's that there are thousands of properties in distress. Yep. The market isn't distressed. There are individual properties, thousands of them in distress. Now, I have 2 properties that are in that distressed list myself. I'm no great genius here. And bottom line is that we're all trying to find ways to work through it. So I have a property called Country Place, Killeen, and it's in Killeen, Texas, near Austin. And the values has just gone down a lot. The property's at 96% occupancy. I can't make it any better. It's optimized. It's all these sorts of things. But it's at the point where it's basically worth the loan amount. And so I'm just working it out with my lender. I won't say who it is, but they're giving me a 3-year extension. And during that 3-year extension, I'm actually getting a rate cut from them. They've made lots of money on this property. They don't want it back because it's just too much work for them. And they've got lots of other properties that are in much worse shape that are worth $5 million or $6 million less than the loan amount. My property is probably worth $700,000 worth of the loan amount. And it's just not worth their hassle to go through that process. And they're like, okay, you know what? Let's sign a new 3-year extension. And it's been painful. I've probably had 20 meetings with them, and I've had to go back to my investors and back and forth. My point is, there's thousands of these properties that may or may not go back to lenders. But I'm not in any way saying that in the last 4 years, the multifamily has become a distressed marketplace. It's just become a marketplace where there's some deals available, and not a huge number of deals, but some deals available. And it's a marketplace where prices are reasonable. They've dropped about somewhere between 20 and 30% depending upon the market. So you've seen some markets drop 30%, some have dropped 20%. The ones that had a lot more supply are trending towards the 30% mark, and the ones that had less supply are trending towards the 20% mark. And why is that bad? Again, as a syndicator that has thousands of units, of course, I only want prices to go up. But as a human being, the fact that rent growth in the United States was 0 for the last 12 months is not a bad thing, because when in 2022, rent growth was 15% and people's salaries were going up 4%, we knew it was unsustainable. So at some point, there had to be an adjustment. Now, in the last 12 months, Steve, salaries went up 4.6%, so not bad at all. Rents went up 0, which essentially meant that some of that craziness that happened in 2022 is finally adjusting in the favor of the tenants. Occupancy has gone down. Usually the US is between 95 and 96% in occupancy. Right now we're between 93 and 94, depending upon which source you look at. And so that also means that tenants are getting more concessions. We've always seen concessions on lease-up properties, but now those are bigger. The concessions are 2 months, some places 3 months. And then the properties that are, let's call them B's and C's, we're now beginning to see some concessions on some of those. So in 2026, we'll see more concessions. Now, everyone that's listening to this that is thinking, is this a good time to jump in, might say, all the stuff that he's saying doesn't sound good. Yes. Yes, but why would you care about it if you don't own assets? This is bad news for me. It's bad news for Steve. We're the ones holding these assets. We're the ones that are offering more concessions. And because we're offering more concessions, our net operating income has gone down. And because our net operating income has gone down, if we have to sell this property, we're going to sell it cheaper to you. Even though everybody knows, if you're listening to Steve, you know that this supply glut is going to end this year. Next year is balanced. And the year after that is a shortage. of apartments, because we're not building anything right now. We're building less than 300,000 units. Our demand is somewhere around 500,000 units. So if you're building 300,000 and your demand's 500,000, at some point there's going to be a shortage. We don't know when. I think it's 2028. 27, I think, is more of a balanced year where you get good rent growth and you start to see an uptick in occupancy, but people aren't going after big aggressive rent growth. They just want to get their occupancy back up. So why would this be bad for somebody that's entering now? Because all of the bad stuff that's happened, both permanent and temporary, has hurt the property's value. You're getting the benefit of it if you're buying it.
Yep.
So when I'm looking at people who are saying, I don't know if it's a good time to jump in, I'm going to basically say, so you wouldn't have jumped in 2009 if I sent you back in time? Oh no, I would have bought everything in sight. Why? Because everything was cheap because there was distress. How is it different from now?
Yep. Nope. 100%. Yeah. And Neal, speaking from, thank you for being vulnerable, by the way. It's really just being realistic. I think we're seeing the same thing of everything that you're seeing. And Neal is being very transparent in terms of his operations. We're seeing so much of the same. Every one of those deals, guess what? If a lender, they have to take something back, guess what? They're on the phone. We've already been the benefit of some of that.
Yep.
There is more on the horizon. There are absolutely deals either working their way through the system, working their way through the pipeline, but they are being picked up, because they're outstanding deals, especially for where valuations have come down, but some in certain markets, to Neal's point there, have definitely pulled back more than others. And so that presents a real opportunity, because we do have that inventory shortage because of the new builds, the pause on new builds. Construction costs and labor costs and everything has just been so high. So it's
skyrocketing. We've lost somewhere between 600,000 and 800,000 workers in the last 12 months because they were undocumented. They're not showing up at construction sites anymore. So the construction workers that are documented are US based. Even though the total amount of constructions come down, whether it's multifamily or anything else, because interest rates affect anything that you're trying to build. You could be building the Tesla factory and it's going to cost more because of higher interest rate. So the amount of construction is down. And so you would think that construction costs would come down. They have gone up because the industry all of a sudden lost 600,000 workers, trained workers, that either are too afraid to show up at the job site or they don't even live in this country anymore.
Yep.
And so as a result, we are seeing the opposite of what is supposed to happen. When demand comes down, prices come down. We've had a demand reduction and a price increase. This means that very few people can build, or at least build profitably.
Yeah. No, yeah. And exactly to your point there, it's okay. The interest rates are going up. Guess what? Capital cost goes up. So you don't think that factors into the pro forma for everybody that's got projects or that had projects in the pipeline? Everything skyrocketed so quickly. Insurance, capital costs, labor costs, and then you throw in that labor shortage. Like I said, we're in a very unique market, but just like you mentioned, yeah, everybody was surviving until 25. Yeah. No, we're tracking the same timeline as you. And there's a ton of volatility, guys. Again, none of this stuff lasts forever, but we are in a very unique point in the market where, hey, guess what? Don't you think once we have some solidity in terms of whatever the market stability it does, let's say whether that be through administration or monetary policy or any of that kind of stuff, do you think that will be the good time to jump in? No, because the deals have already happened. All it's going to do is reduce the capital costs. It's going to drive prices through the roof, especially when we're dealing with an inventory shortage. Now's the time. It's a great time. So like I said, we've got tons of stuff working in the pipeline. We've got some awesome opportunities, especially where pricing has been high in the last several years. You know what? That stuff is finally starting to work through the system, and it presents a real opportunity for those that are in the game. If you don't sit on the sideline, don't sit on your hands thinking, you know what, I'm waiting for the right time.
I think there's a tremendous opportunity. It's huge. And one of the key things I want to say is there isn't a tremendous opportunity that we're going to make the kind of money that we made in 2021 and 2022. And so if you're expecting that, you need to find a different area. Real estate's not going to be it for you. But I think when we call it a tremendous opportunity, what we mean is that you're either buying at the bottom of the market or very close to the bottom of the market. And that's always a tremendous opportunity, regardless of what area you're in. Whether you're in real estate or cryptocurrency, buying near the bottom of the market is great. We don't quite know the bottom. Nobody knows the bottom. I don't try to time it because I've tried to do that in the past and just miserably failed. So, but you estimated based on what you're seeing in the marketplace, like cap rates, for example. Cap rates went up, which means prices went down. Cap rates going up is bad for the industry. They went up 9 quarters. Now, for the last 4 quarters, they've just been in the same place. They're not going up. They're not going down. It's been 4 quarters. They're standing there because this is normal. Because when you hit that plateau, that's when people start to realize, okay, you know what? Cap rates are not going up anymore, which means prices are not going down anymore. And once enough people say that, feel that, act that, that's when cap rates start to go downwards and prices start to move upwards.
No, and actually, to circle back earlier too to what you were talking about with the lenders, I always think that's something good to point out to the listeners. How you were mentioning how a bunch of the lenders now are like, "Hey, I want to work with you." Guess what, guys? We're all in the same boat, and it's basically a realization on their part where, hey, you're literally in the same boat. Now, that was not always the case. We operate like this. Things are cyclical. There's plenty of times where the lender has the power to shut you down and or be conservative and they're underwriting and they really have a lot of control over your deal, but to your point, hey, they realize, look, I'm in the same boat as you. I don't want this thing back. Counter to what I think a lot of people may believe, lenders are not in the business to own property. Lenders are in the business to lend money.
And
they just want
really
to shuffle
terrible when they take the properties back, by the way.
Yeah.
They do a horrible job of managing them. If you look at lender-possessed properties, they're in the bottom 10% in terms of how much money they're producing. And lenders are well aware of that they really suck at this. So even the larger lenders don't want properties back. And the other problem is when they take properties back, they have to put them in their balance sheet and they have to disclose that to the Federal Reserve. And that prevents them from lending out more money. So they like the pretend and extend game because it allows them to lend out more money.
Yeah, it keeps things moving really on their books. So if that is something that you're dealing with, make it a point to reach out to your lender and say, hey, what kind of options do we have here?
I think communication is really key.
Yes.
What I find is that if you're new to this, you don't communicate. You don't tell them any bad news, which is weird. Who would know more about bad news than lenders? So when you don't communicate with them until the last moment where you need their help, that's the wrong strategy. You need to be talking with them, candid, discussing what's happening in the industry, what's happening with your property, your efforts, on an ongoing basis. You almost need, the way I look at it is, my relationship manager at all of the major lenders essentially works for me for free. Okay? Because his job is to tell his bosses how awesome of a job I'm doing to really try and manage the property. And I'm still having problems and sooner or later I'm going to need their help. That's my message. And I want it delivered over an 18-month period, not 3 months. Because if you deliver it that way, then they're not inclined to help you. They don't like surprises. So you deliver it very smoothly over 18 months. And now your lender is basically part of your team working together to figure this out.
Yeah, I was going to say, versus looking at them as adversarial, it's okay, no, they're a partner in overall success. So see them as that. You would want to communicate, hey, just like if you're married or you have a business partner, guess what? Communication is key. Like how many times you hear that?
Yeah.
Any kind of advice that you get, communication is key. I love that, how it's okay, I'm not going to spring this. Don't spring it on them. Communicate to them. Hey, you do your part, do your job, doing everything that you do. Obviously, there's factors beyond your control, just like they're experiencing across how many other potential loans in their portfolio. So it's okay. How can we work together to solve this? They're in it. Again, they're in the same boat.
Yep.
But communication, a vital component of any relationship. And that extends to your lenders as well.
And your investors. So one of the key
100%.
things is
100%.
I still see too many, I don't know if syndicators, especially new ones, are either afraid to say something that comes out of their mouth as bad news, or they're just trying to stay away from it, not even think about what could happen. We have spent in the last 2 years as much time on writing decks about bad news and cash calls as we have spent on new projects. And you know what we found? Our investors like us more because of it. Because we have spent the time to educate them and explain to them all the challenges that we have. And the richest investors, the ones that put in the most amount of money, are saying, I really like the fact that you're fighting through this time for me. I'm sitting here playing on my golf course so that you can be fighting to make sure that every last penny of my money can be returned. Yeah, we didn't make money, but I like the fact that you're visible, you're here, you're telling me about it, you're being candid, straightforward, telling me about various solutions. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. I did not expect that, but that's what I've learned.
Yeah. You're not fly by night. You're not like, hey, okay, these are the problems. And guess what? I'm just going to ghost you. Like how they probably experience in a lot of other maybe business relationships and whatnot. Let's be honest, guys, we're in the middle of early 2026 now as of recording. We're 6 years or close to 6 years past COVID. There are a lot of businesses that have gone under. There has been a ton of volatility in the economy, and the marketplace as a whole. You can't tell me that they have not, as investors, as business owners, have not experienced businesses and opportunities going sideways. So if you're able to communicate with them and just be straightforward and be like, hey, I'm right here with you. I'm not going anywhere. I will be here when all of this passes too. And I'm your partner. I'm your trusted partner to see all of this through. I'm not going anywhere. And I think that's
And I
absolutely
tell
vital.
them, statistically speaking, the chances that I can make $1 in profit from this property is 1 in 1,000. But I'm spending 5 times more time on this property than I was before, simply because it's the right thing to do. Even though my chances of making money from it are very small, I can just move on to the next property, which right now, buying more properties today is obviously going to make me lots of money. But I'm not going into a lot of new projects. Some, we launched one project, we raised about $6.5 million, small project, and we're taking our time. And I think that's hopefully what everyone should be doing if they have assets that are challenging. Speaking with the investors, spending time with them. We've done 2 cash calls, both have been successful, and we were careful. We basically gave investors double the money that we'd actually needed and ended up with half. One of the cash calls was 2.2 million. We ended up with 1.1. That was our goal. So we do multiply it by 2x before we take it to the investors, but they were successful cash calls. And we also froze some projects, which were land projects, and we decided not to build them. And we spoke to our investors. And what we do is actually, we present to them in detail, and then we say, you vote. If you want us to build, we'll go ahead. And in every instance that I remember, it's been at least a 96, 97% of the people saying, let's just pause and wait for this storm to pass.
Yep. No, and I think that's it's a healthy and mature way to kind of look at a lot of this. Is this too shall pass? Like we're not going to be stuck here forever, guys. And that's an important takeaway. So you stay nimble, you communicate, work with all of your partners on any of the projects, whether that be on the investor side or the lending side, vendors, contractors, all of that kind of stuff. Over communicate, because again, we're all in the same boat. If everybody picks up their row and they keep paddling forward, then we'll make it through. I have seen that, and I've heard the horror stories, of course, of people that are like, yep, no, that sponsor, I'm not picking up my call. Hey, we've already gone through the capital calls, and I'm not confident I will get back even my initial investment at all. And those are not the type of relationships you want to build, because guess what? Just like how Neal's saying, hey, I'm communicating with all my investors. I'm communicating with my lenders. Do you think that they're more likely to work with him again in the future? Because he's still around.
So
You're still around, though. You're working through it. Hey, I communicate. I didn't run. I didn't go anywhere. You know where to find me. We were talking a little bit, just to switch gears a little bit, we were talking a little bit about technology before we started recording. Is there anything you can share with us about how you're incorporating AI, let's say, into maybe existing operations? Hey, is there any way, and I'm sure you've already dealt with this, but hey, are there ways that we can tighten our belt across the portfolio where we can shore up some operational inefficiencies using technology, trim the fat, so to speak, or really just to get more efficient with the things that we're doing, and maybe in your management or your education company? There's a lot of different ways that we can incorporate technology into it. Are there any ways that you can share with our listeners, share with our audience about stuff that you're working on or have experienced?
Sure. We are an AI first company, and we're also a traction company. Traction is a book written by Gene Wickman that basically is a way in which you run your company using an operating system called EOS, or Entrepreneurial Operating System. So we follow the traction system. We run our company that way. And when you run your company that way, every single person in your company has something known as a ROC, which is basically once a quarter, they have certain goals they have to hit. And currently, all of our senior managers, their number one ROC is what they're going to do with AI in that particular quarter. And my number one ROC, because you're required as a CEO to have your own ROCs, is also AI. And we are implementing AI. We've already plucked the low-hanging fruit, and I'll tell you what the low-hanging fruit is what we're working on now. The low-hanging fruit was basically to use tools like ChatGPT to take in all of the transcripts from all of our property management meetings. So about a year and a half ago, we started using a tool called Fathom, which basically comes in as a member in all of our Zoom calls, and it gathers the transcripts, and you basically take those transcripts and it writes your investor updates. Now, human beings update them because it didn't initially do a very good job. Now it does much better because we probably tweaked the agents 200 or 300 times, and now it really gets it. And it gets better over time. So we've basically created these custom apps that are inside even the $20 version of ChatGPT. Everyone in our company has a ChatGPT account. And those were the low-hanging fruit. So every single Slack channel, the posts that are coming in on Monday that are beautiful tables, spreadsheets, are all generated by AI for every single property. If you look at the marketing team, their metrics, everything that's being published is AI. All of this is low-hanging fruit because it's human beings saying, I'm going to take data from some meeting or some spreadsheet, I'm going to throw it into ChatGPT, I'm going to take the result, I'm going to publish it in Slack or wherever it is that you publish your stuff. So we've completed that phase and we're not doing much with it. The phase that we've now moved on to, which is 100% of our focus for this quarter and next quarter, is called Agentic AI. Agentic AI is a fancy name for simply AI that does the work for you. You give it directions, but then it does everything for you. The most powerful agentic AI, Claude, Cowork, and there's one version of it which we've now migrated to which is more powerful, called Claude Code. So Claude Code's better than Claude Cowork, though initially when we on-ramp people and we're writing code, we have them use Cowork because they're more comfortable and doesn't show you the code so you don't feel like, oh, I don't know what it's doing. But Cowork is just a fancy front end for Claude Code. So it's still writing code, it's still doing all of that stuff in the background, it's just not showing it to you so you feel more comfortable. So now we're at the point, for example, that our entire company's rent comps. When we go out, we have a new property, it comes in through the pipeline. All of the initial checking, all of the initial work is being done by agents. These are agents and either they're using Claude or they're using a Chinese tool that I'm a huge fan of called DeepSeek. And so when properties come in, even taking them out of email is something that an agent does. One agent takes them out of email and stores them on the network, renames them so that they're appropriate, puts them into an Excel spreadsheet so we know that this was the incoming yield for this particular week, opens up a new Google Sheet, grabs all of the information from the incoming property, if necessary, goes out to the web, signs one of those documents so that you can get the rent roll and the T12, grabs it, parses through it, looks through it, takes that information, puts it into a spreadsheet, and then runs an initial underwrite. And all of this stuff at this point has happened without any human beings being involved at all. Now, at some point it says, okay, this is what I think is going to happen. And it lines it now up for a human being by putting it into a Slack channel and saying, hey, I've finished analyzing this incoming property. And it's a Google Sheets link, and a human being for the first time clicks on it and says, a rather interesting property in so-and-so metro. And that's when the humans start to get involved. And obviously at that point, you take it from there. And then when the human beings are ready to present to the investment committee, which in my company happens to be me, but I act as if there's a whole bunch of people on the investment committee, now a deck is being created, and that deck is being created entirely by AI. So human beings basically verify everything, they check everything, all of the rent comp work, which is not easy for AI to do, by the way. This is not something that AI could do reliably 6 months ago, because AI is very good at stuff that you give it. You can give it email, you can give it Google Drive, it's pretty good at it. But going out to website like apartments.com, username, password, logging in, grabbing all of your rent comps and putting them into field, this is not something that's easy to do. It was actually pretty expensive to do. And then a Chinese tool called Manus came out, MANUS. The tool was only there for 4 months before Facebook bought it for $2 billion. And so they actually, we were worried about the stuff being Chinese. So the company moved from China, Shenzhen, to Hong Kong. And the moment they did it, Facebook bought them a few days later. So fantastic tool. And what it did was basically it would go out to the web and do all this stuff. So eventually over 6 months, we got to the point where it was doing a better job of rent comps than our humans were doing. So we've just completely given up on rent comps. It's 100% automated. Now what we're doing is we're moving into the agentic stuff into our asset management. So initially it was like, okay, our pipeline is agentic. And so we've done a lot of work there. Then it was like our investor, we don't use AI for speaking with our existing investors, but to get new investors into the pipeline, social media, stuff like that. Everybody seems to be doing that. Again, that's low-hanging fruit. We were doing it a while back. But now we're doing agentic stuff. Like we're going into Facebook groups that belong to other real estate folks, and we're reading to see who is posting the most, who is the most bullish, who says that they have money. And we're basically taking those people's profiles, running them through databases like Apollo, figuring out the names of the investors, and then figuring out how we can reach out to them. Because these investors don't know us. So outbound work to find investors has now become agentic in nature. And then the last part of it, which I like the most, is asset management. So all property managers lie to you. So let's say you have 20 properties. Let's pick the best property manager out of the 20, the one that walks on water. they're still lying to you. And there's a reason for that. Property managers make 3% of the gross, 3.5%, something like that on large properties. It's not enough. So what happens in most cases is when you call them on Monday, on Mondays we have meetings. Now it's Tuesday because we're at EOS company, so all of our internal LTEL meetings are Monday. But our Tuesday morning meetings with these property managers, we ask them things like, how long does it take you? What's your speed to lead? How many minutes after the lead comes in do you respond? And they say stuff. It's always a lie, okay? They always lie because they just don't have the manpower to do it. So what we've started doing is, whether it's Entrada or Appfolio or Yardi, we have basically built tools on the web. So we have these servers, we pay $45 a month for the server. And then we've connected these servers using an application called Visual Studio Code to DeepSeek. DeepSeek is a Chinese model. It's 1/17th of the price of Claude or OpenAI. And the reason we're using DeepSeek simply is it was too expensive to use either OpenAI or ChatGPT tools or Claude to do this. We don't have the money. DeepSeek version 4 is phenomenal and is 1/17th of the price on a per token basis. So we basically have this server and it's sitting there 24 hours a day. It's turned on and we're vibe coding. We're not coders, by the way. We don't know how to program. And so we go in, we speak in normal language to these tools and we say, okay, we have these 4 properties that are using Entrada. We have these 4 that are using Yardi. We have these 5 that are using Appfolio. And we need you to help us connect into these and pull all of the information every day from these properties into the server. And we don't know how it's going to do this, but it says blah, 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 API, blah, blah, JSON, JavaScript, blah, blah, blah. We ignore all of that and we keep asking stupid questions. And eventually it starts to build a application from scratch with a database from scratch. And every once in a while it'll say something like, go to this browser, click on this and give us this API key. We're capable of doing that. It's simple instructions. We follow them. And then eventually, after working on this for days, giving just simple instructions and asking questions and going through a whole bunch of bugs, you now have all of the information for all of your properties in your database in real time. And now you start saying, I want a sexy dashboard. I want a dashboard where at the top I have this property, I can drop it down and select a property. And it gives me all the information about that property, speed to lead, how many leads is it getting, how many appointments does it have. And then I want you to figure out how to compare this with every other property and rank this property. Let's say I have 20 properties. Which one's number 1 in speed to lead? Which one's good in lead to appointments? Which one's the best for appointments to show? Which one's the best for show to application? Which one's the best for application to lease? These are the things I care about. This is how I keep my property occupied. And what about the rents? Which property is the most under all the other properties in the marketplace? Because I have a comp set. And it also gives you the comp set. It tells you which are the properties in your comp set. You can get this information from CoStar, but these tools give it to you as well, so you don't need CoStar as much anymore. So now, am I the top property in the comp set or I'm the lowest property in the comp set? And what you're doing is creating these visual tools that are showing you and your property manager just how good or bad they are. Imagine going into a Tuesday morning meeting with me, and I don't go into these meetings. I'm helping cook up the dashboard, but it's Kimberly, my asset manager. So she's going in there and she is launching this dashboard, which is gorgeous, like absolutely stunning looking. Looks like we paid $1 million to McKinsey.
And you would have previously.
You probably paid $1,000 in tokens for it, maybe not even 1,000, maybe $700 in Chinese DeepSeek tokens. It looks stunning. And so they select the property, and then the manager on the screen is seeing things like, this property is ranking 8 out of 10 for speed to lead. It's ranking 9 out of 10 for converting leads into appointments. And you don't have to say anything at that point. You don't have to use F-bombs. You don't have to tell them. They already know on the screen that they're underperforming because you're comparing them to other properties with other property managers. I've never seen property managers become more naked than this.
Yeah.
Because everything that they say, things like it's a tough market, there's a lot of construction. Yeah, you don't think that all of these other properties have the same problem? You're the only one that has this problem?
Yeah.
Imagine being able to do that and do it seamlessly. I know people have said they've done this before, and unless you're a big property management company, asset management company, you don't have the money, you don't have the ability to do that. Today, it works flawlessly through something called an API key. An API key is something that you get from each of these software, and once you get it, you basically are not using the software at all. We are no longer logging into our property management software, into our asset management dashboard. We don't care. We suck all the information out, we put it on our servers, and they build these incredible charts and graphs that are custom for us.
Yeah.
And anytime that property, there's maybe some property that has some particular issue, you just tell the dashboard, account for this, have a checkbox for this, so that the property manager doesn't feel like we're shafting them because of this one issue. This property had a $200,000 sudden tax bill. We put a checkbox, it takes that out, and now again, we're comparing apples to apples. That property manager's not complaining. This would have cost tens of thousands of dollars and months to do. We do it in half an hour of work. And the people that are building these apps, we're paying them $7 an hour, and they're all in the Philippines. They work for us on a full-time basis, so they do have 5 years of experience with us. We don't ever lose any person in our Philippines team. We've had them for a long time. So now they're building these apps. You might say, are these coders? No, we don't employ any coders. These are all administrators. But they're not coding. They're talking. Yep. They're speaking and typing in simple words. We give them a vision, and they go to work on it. And at $7 an hour, I don't care how many back and forths they have to have with this server before I get my sexy dashboard. And when it doesn't work, I just basically tell them, hey, here's the problem, go figure it out. And they're probably talking with it all day long before it figures it out. I don't care. Tokens are cheap. DeepSeek, especially DeepSeek tokens are cheap. Anthropic tokens are very expensive. That's Claude. So we haven't used that. Now we continue to use Claude to do all of our architectural work. So when we initially do the work, it's always done in a software called Claude Code. Once we're done, we have Claude Code write a file called an MD or a markdown file. Markdown file is like a text file. You can just open it and read it. And it's all of the instructions, everything that it did, all of the things that it found wrong, all of the screw ups, and how it fixed them using expensive Anthropic tokens. And then we take that MD file and we stick it into the software that connects to DeepSeek. And now that software is really smart. And it's 1/17 of the cost.
Yeah, because the Claude...
I got really techie for a while.
No, I was going to say, you got the listeners signed up for a podcast in real estate, and they got a masterclass on how to incorporate AI into their existing operations.
This works for anything. I mean, if I had 12 Burger Kings, I would be doing the exact same thing. If I had 15 car wash shops, I would be doing the exact same thing. This process doesn't change regardless of how big or small a company you are.
Yeah, no, and that's the beauty now. And guys, if maybe, hey, you know what, last year, I was poking around with chat and I tried it already or whatever. It didn't work that great. Guys, how quickly all of this stuff is advancing and improving is stunning. Incredible.
The last 90 days have been the best. So in the last 90 days, even the cheaper tools, the Chinese tools, have become truly agentic. They've caught up. DeepSeek released version 4. And it's stunning. Where the world is changing at least 10x the pace that it was, and nobody understands it. Not even the media understands it, and they're paid to understand this.
Yeah, the pace of change is incredible. So like that, you could, just to Neal's point, you can take this and apply it back to honestly anything that you're doing. And I'm glad that you kept reiterating, hey, you know what, like I'm not a coder, because guess what? You don't have to be now. You just tell it what you need. And it goes and
though we say in our company, so on Monday mornings is our EOS huddle. It's always about 9 or 10 minutes long. And there's a slide in there that I provide each week. That's my AI message of the week there. And this week's message is, we are all programmers. And then I obviously go on to explain what that means. But everyone in the world is now a programmer. I don't know of anybody that's listening to this podcast that doesn't think that they can jockey an Excel spreadsheet. You may not write heavy formulas, but you can put stuff in Excel. You can use Excel. All I can tell you is 3 years from now, all of us will be able to program and do the things that I've just described, because this is now Excel. This is now the new benchmark for white collar performance. It just takes about 3 years for the rest of the world to catch up.
Yeah. That's why starting off earlier, to me, like I said, it's very exciting, because guess what? I'm always surprised, and it shouldn't be. The general sentiment, let's say around the US on AI, is very negative. And it's,
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. That makes no sense at all. We look at the wealth that is being created in AI. You realize that the US stock market is up at least $3 or $4 trillion so far because of AI. There are only 2 countries in the AI race. Like 99% of all AI money is concentrated in 2 countries, 2.5. So it's India, China, and on the hardware side, there's a third country called Taiwan, which produces all the chips that both of these countries use. So it's really 2.5 countries out of 230. Europe has no play. Europe has no companies. India has no companies. There's 2.5 countries getting all of the benefit and all of the financial benefit out of this. We're $4 trillion up in our stock market and counting. And this is bad news? No.
You know what? It's you know what? It's bad news for the people that aren't even willing to try. And that was already going to be the case. That
But
was
there's
already going to be the case.
always people that are not willing to change. And there have been 100 technological revolutions before AI, none as powerful as AI, but 100 that have basically put hundreds of millions of people out of work in their time over the last 100 years. And those people have, after they've been out of work, the vast majority have adapted. And the ones that haven't have had a tough life. But that hasn't changed our economy from surging on and becoming 10 times more powerful than it was 100 years ago. So vast majority of people change when they get hit. And that's just life. Can't change it.
Yeah. But if you're listening to the podcast, if you're listening to the show, you're trying to get better. Now you just heard Neal give you very practical ways on how, even if you just grab a little piece of what he's talking about and the method in which he's been able to incorporate that into their business. And we're doing the same. So it's if you just grab a little piece of it, apply it to whatever it is that you're doing in your life, however it is you're working, and you can provide value. Let's say you're an employee. Great. You use the tools, provide some value in a new, fresh way. I can guarantee you your company is going to well receive that. And that will put you on the map. That will open up new doors of opportunity. So it's an incredibly exciting time, guys. You should be excited. I know I am. I know Neal is. So we're really looking forward to, hey, what does the next 6 months look like? What are the world that we live in? Let's say we fast forward 5 years. Incredible. It's going to be a completely different landscape, and we'll be using, obviously, there are going to be new tools that will reach on at the front end of trying to bring into the marketplace, into operations and whatnot. But it's very exciting. But hey, Neal, I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day, hopping on with us and the listeners for this third go around here. You're recording here on the podcast with us. Any last bits of wisdom or anything you want to share with the listeners before we sign off?
Everything that I said and everything that Steve said can be taken in multiple ways. It's really about mindset. There will be some people who after this podcast will do nothing, some that will feel much worse, and some that will feel better. And the difference between them is not experience, competency, or intelligence. It's mindset.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. Whether you can or you can't. You're right. Neal, hey, thanks so much for hopping on with us again. We're always a pleasure to have you on the show and get a chance to listen to one of the masters in the space. So thank you very much. And we'll look forward to circling back with you in the future and see what you're cooking up next. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Anybody that wants, we do 8 webinars about all this stuff that's happening in technology and real estate. It's all stored at a website called multifamilyu.com. We get about 10,000 people watching these webinars. So check out multifamilyu.com. It's free. There's no subscription. There's no upsell. We don't have an educational program and never will. So check out multifamilyu.com and you'll see all of our webinars about these kinds of interesting topics.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks again, Neal, for hopping on with us. I greatly appreciate your time, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Oh, such an amazing episode with Neal Bawa. He's always great to listen to. Obviously, his background is with data, being very data driven, data forward in their operations, and obviously the education space. But tons of gems in there. Go ahead and go back. For one, subscribe if you haven't already. I don't know what you're doing, but we appreciate hopefully having him on the show. And you guys go back, re-listen to a bunch of what he just shared, probably in that last 20 minutes, because that really is a very practical masterclass in terms of how you can actually incorporate AI into whatever it is that you're working on. You don't have to be have $1 billion portfolio or tens of thousands of doors. This applies to the AI component, applies to honestly all parts of our life now. So whatever it is that you're doing, if you're an employee, if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're in education, you can be a teacher, and there are ways that you can incorporate AI into your daily workflow in providing, let's say, your students a better experience. Just ask it how it can help you to solve whatever problem it is that you're working on, and it will come up with solutions. And think of it as a thinking partner. It's really, really incredible and very impressive what it can create. But guys, if you're interested in investing with us and seeing about some of our past projects or current portfolio, go to tricityequity.com. You can learn more. I'd love to have a conversation with you. So you can always schedule a call with me, reach out, DM me, or come out to one of our monthly meetups. We have meetups every month. If you're here in Honolulu or you're planning on traveling here, We try to keep them first Fridays, but go to tricityequity.com. You can learn more about that. We'd love to see you out in an in-person meetup. And I think you would greatly benefit from connecting with other local like-minded individuals and investors. And even if you're not here, do that for yourself. Do that locally. Find some people who are trying to press the envelope, who are looking to level up their game in whatever facet of it is. Well, maybe you team up with somebody who is trying to incorporate, let's say, technology into their daily life, into their operations, and you guys can brainstorm there locally. But having a supportive community that wants to see each other succeed, invaluable. So I would highly recommend that. But hey, that's it for me today, guys. I greatly appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to tune in and listen to us. And we appreciate you guys. Go out, take some action. We'll see you on the next episode. Aloha.